On a crisp autumn morning in Austin, Texas, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and breakfast sandwiches wafted through the air outside a bustling McDonald's. The restaurant, situated near a tech corridor, was experiencing its usual morning rush when something extraordinary began to unfold. A young boy, no more than 12 years old, stood near the entrance, violin case opened at his feet. His threadbare jacket and scuffed shoes told a story of modest means, but his eyes sparkled with determination. As he lifted his violin to his shoulder, positioning it with the precision of someone who had done this countless times before, the morning crowd barely noticed. The first notes that emerged from his instrument were tentative, almost shy. But as his confidence grew, the music swelled into something magical. The piece he played wasn't the usual street performer's fare. It was Paganini's Caprice No. 24, one of the most challenging violin compositions ever written. His small fingers danced across the strings with remarkable agility, each note crystal clear in the morning air. A few early morning customers paused, coffee cups in hand, drawn by the unexpected symphony outside their regular breakfast spot. The boy swayed gently with the music, completely lost in his performance. His violin wasn't a premium brand. It showed signs of wear and careful maintenance. But in his hands, it sang like a much more expensive instrument. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the parking lot, a sleek Tesla silently pulled into a parking space. Few noticed the vehicle's arrival, as most eyes were fixed on the young violinist. The car's door opened, and out stepped Elon Musk, dressed casually in a black t-shirt and jeans, his attention immediately caught by the magnificent music filling the air. The boy, unaware of his growing audience, transitioned seamlessly into his next piece. This one was different, an original composition that seemed to capture the wonder of space exploration. The melody soared and dipped like a rocket breaking through the atmosphere, then floated weightlessly like a satellite in orbit. The complexity and emotion in the piece belied the composer's young age. Several customers had now gathered, forming a small semicircle around the young performer. They held phones capturing the moment, but most were simply transfixed by the performance. Some had placed dollar bills and coins in the open violin case, though money seemed to be the furthest thing from the boy's mind as he played. A few more cars pulled into the parking lot, their drivers caught between their morning routine and the unexpected concert. Through the restaurant's windows, employees and customers alike had paused their activities to listen. The morning sun now fully illuminated the scene, creating an almost ethereal backdrop for the performance. As the boy drew his bow across the strings for the final notes of his composition, Musk stood motionless, clearly moved by what he had just witnessed. The young violinist's dedication to his craft was evident in every perfect note, every subtle nuance of his playing. What happened next would change this talented young musician's life forever, but for now, he was simply a boy sharing his passion with the world outside of McDonald's on an ordinary autumn morning. As the final notes of the young violinist's performance faded into the morning air, Elon Musk made his way through the small crowd that had gathered. People whispered and pointed, phones now shifting to capture the unexpected presence of the tech billionaire. But Musk's attention remained focused solely on the young performer who was carefully wiping down his violin strings. "That space composition," Musk said, approaching with genuine curiosity in his eyes. "Did you write it yourself?" The boy looked up, momentarily stunned to recognize who was speaking to him. He nodded, his hands nervously gripping his violin. "I was inspired by watching rocket launches online," the boy explained, his voice quiet but steady. "I've never seen one in person, but I imagine this is what it feels like." His eyes lit up as he spoke about space, revealing a passion that went beyond music. The morning crowd grew larger, with people leaving their cars running to witness the unusual scene unfolding. The McDonald's staff peered through the windows, breakfast orders temporarily forgotten. Musk listened intently as the young violinist explained how he'd been teaching himself advanced mathematics and physics through online videos, all while practicing violin for hours each day. "My mom works 2 jobs," the boy continued, glancing at his worn violin case. "She helps me pay for strings and sheet music, but proper lessons—" He trailed off, shrugging slightly. The dedication in his voice was unmistakable, despite the challenging circumstances. The morning sun had fully risen now, casting a warm glow over the scene. Musk pulled out his phone, scrolling through something while asking the boy about his future goals. The young musician spoke of dreams that seemed impossibly big: attending a prestigious music school, studying aerospace engineering, somehow finding a way to combine his love of music and science. "Play that space piece again," Musk requested, his phone now held up to record. The boy positioned his violin, took a deep breath, and began to play. This time, knowing who his audience was, he poured even more emotion into the piece. The music soared higher, capturing the wonder of exploration and discovery. Several passing cars slowed down, drivers wondering why Elon Musk was standing outside McDonald's on a regular morning, watching a young street performer. The crowd had grown to about 30 people, all captivated by the impromptu performance and the unusual situation. As the last note hung in the air, Musk stepped forward and reached into his pocket. Instead of dropping money into the violin case, he pulled out a business card. What he said next would set in motion a series of events that would transform not just the young musician's life, but inspire millions around the world to never give up on their dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. "What sort of work do you do at SpaceX?" the boy asked, looking at the business card Musk had just handed him. The small crowd around them held their breath, phones still recording the incredible moment unfolding in front of a regular McDonald's. Musk smiled, clearly impressed by the young violinist's genuine curiosity about space technology. "We're working on something special right now, our next big launch. But I'm more interested in hearing about your music and your dreams of combining science with art." The boy's eyes sparkled as he carefully tucked the business card into his violin case. "I've been studying rocket propulsion systems in my free time," he explained, his voice growing more confident. "I try to capture that feeling in my music, the way thrust vectors change during launch, the precise calculations needed for orbit insertion. It's all like a symphony to me." The growing crowd murmured in amazement. Here was a young street performer discussing complex aerospace concepts while holding a violin. Musk nodded thoughtfully, clearly seeing something special in the boy's unique perspective. "You know," Musk said, "we're always looking for fresh ways to think about space exploration. Someone who can see the mathematics in music, the art in engineering. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need." He paused, looking at the worn violin. "Would you be interested in performing at our next launch event?" The boy's hands trembled slightly as he processed the offer. At SpaceX?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The morning sun caught the tears welling up in his eyes. Several people in the crowd wiped away their own tears, caught up in the emotional moment. The McDonald's staff had completely abandoned their posts, watching through the windows as history was being made in their parking lot. "Not just perform," Musk continued, "but I'd like you to compose something special for the occasion. Something that captures what you see in space exploration. And while you're there, I'd love to show you around the facility, let you see what real rocket science looks like up close." The boy clutched his violin tighter, as if making sure this wasn't all a dream. A woman in a McDonald's uniform, who had stepped outside to watch, suddenly started clapping. The applause spread through the crowd like wildfire. "Just one condition," Musk added with a gentle smile. "You'll need some proper music lessons before the performance. And maybe some advanced physics tutoring to help with those rocket calculations you're so interested in. My tree, of course." The morning traffic continued to flow past the McDonald's, drivers unaware that they were passing by a moment that would soon go viral and inspire millions. The boy's life was about to change dramatically, but for now, he simply stood there, holding his violin, as the first light of dawn painted the sky the same color as his dreams. The McDonald's parking lot was still buzzing with excitement when someone in the crowd shouted, "Play something else." Other voices joined in, encouraging the young violinist to perform another piece. The morning sun was now high enough to cast a warm glow over the impromptu concert venue. The boy looked at Musk, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, he lifted his violin once again. This time, he chose a different piece, one that started soft and gentle, like a distant star, then built into a powerful crescendo that felt like a journey through the cosmos. More customers had gathered now, some holding their breakfast bags, others forgetting about their morning coffee entirely. The crowd had grown to nearly 50 people, all captivated by the young musician's talent. Someone had even set up a phone on a tripod, live streaming the entire event. As the boy played, Musk pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "Get me the head of our education outreach program," he said quietly, never taking his eyes off the performance. "And contact the best violin instructor in Austin. We've got something special here." The music swelled to its peak, and the young violinist swayed with the rhythm, completely lost in his performance. His worn sneakers moved across the pavement as if he were dancing among the stars. The morning traffic seemed to slow down, as if even the passing cars wanted to witness this extraordinary moment. "Your understanding of physics through music is remarkable," Musk said after the performance ended. "The way you interpret gravitational forces and orbital mechanics in your compositions. It's unlike anything I've heard before." The boy's eyes lit up at the technical terms. "Sometimes when I'm practicing, I imagine each note as a different celestial body," he explained, gesturing with his bow. "The higher notes are like smaller planets with faster orbits, while the lower notes are like giant gas giants moving more slowly." People in the crowd looked at each other in amazement. This wasn't just a talented musician. This was a young mind that saw the universe in a completely unique way. Some parents in the audience were filming the interaction, likely thinking about sharing it with their own children as inspiration. A woman from the McDonald's staff emerged with a tray of breakfast sandwiches and coffee for everyone. The morning had turned into an impromptu community gathering, with strangers chatting excitedly about what they were witnessing. Social media notifications were already starting to buzz as the first videos began to spread online. The sun continued to climb higher, and more cars pulled into the parking lot. What had started as a regular morning at McDonald's had transformed into something extraordinary. A moment where talent met opportunity, where dreams began to take flight, and where a young boy's passion for music and science was about to change his life forever. The McDonald's parking lot was rapidly transforming into an impromptu press conference. A local news van had pulled up, drawn by the social media buzz about Elon Musk's unexpected appearance. The young violinist, still holding his instrument, looked overwhelmed by the growing attention. "Tell me about your mother," Musk said gently, steering the conversation away from the cameras. "You mentioned she works 2 jobs. The boy's eyes softened at the mention of his mom, his fingers absently running along the worn edge of his violin. "She works mornings at a coffee shop and evenings cleaning offices," the boy explained, his voice filled with pride. "She never complains, even though she's tired all the time. Every spare dollar goes to my violin strings and sheet music." He glanced at his well-worn case, held together with duct tape at the corners. A hush fell over the crowd as they listened. Even the news crew lowered their cameras, caught up in the raw emotion of the moment. Musk nodded thoughtfully, his expression showing he understood the weight of sacrifice behind those words. "Your mother's dedication to your dreams is extraordinary," Musk said. "I'd like to help ensure her sacrifices weren't in vain." He pulled out his phone again, this time making a longer call. The boy watched nervously, clutching his violin closer. The morning sun had grown warmer, and someone from McDonald's brought out water bottles for everyone. The crowd had thinned slightly as people reluctantly left for work, but new spectators kept arriving, drawn by the growing number of social media posts. "We have a program at SpaceX," Musk explained after finishing his call, "for exceptional young minds who see the world differently. Your understanding of physics through music, That's exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need for the future of space exploration. The boy's eyes widened as Musk continued. We're going to set up a special scholarship fund. Full music education, advanced science and math tutoring, and a direct mentorship path with our engineering team. He paused, letting the words sink in. And most importantly, your mother won't have to work 2 jobs anymore. Tears began rolling down the boy's cheeks, but he quickly wiped them away with his sleeve. The crowd broke into spontaneous applause, many wiping away their own tears. The McDonald's staff, who had been watching this entire story unfold since early morning, were openly crying and hugging each other. The story of the violin player at McDonald's was about to go viral, touching millions of hearts worldwide. But in that moment, in that parking lot, it was simply about a young boy whose dedication to his craft had opened an unexpected door to his dreams. As word spread about the incredible encounter at McDonald's, reporters began arriving in greater numbers. The boy's story was rapidly catching fire on social media, with the initial live stream already reaching hundreds of thousands of views. Through it all, he remained surprisingly composed, though his hands trembled slightly as he held his beloved violin. Musk, noticing the boy's growing nervousness with the media attention, suggested they step inside the restaurant. The McDonald's manager quickly cleared a quiet corner, bringing over breakfast for them both. The windows were now lined with curious onlookers, phones pressed against the glass. I want to make sure you understand what's happening, Musk said, pushing a breakfast sandwich toward the young musician. This scholarship isn't just about money. It's about nurturing your unique vision. The way you blend music with physics, that's something special. The boy took a small bite of his sandwich, barely able to eat from excitement. Will I really get to see the rockets up close? He asked, his voice filled with wonder. The question made Musk smile, reminded of his own childhood dreams. Inside the McDonald's, customers were still filming discreetly, but the atmosphere was more peaceful than the growing chaos outside. The morning staff worked quietly, occasionally stealing glances at the unlikely pair discussing space exploration over breakfast sandwiches. More than that, Musk replied, pulling out his tablet. Look at this. He showed the boy a 3D model of the latest SpaceX rocket. I want you to compose something that captures this, the power, the precision, the dream of reaching for the stars. But now you'll understand exactly how it works. The boy's eyes grew wide as Musk swiped through various technical diagrams, explaining basic concepts of rocket science in terms that connected with the young musician's understanding of harmony and rhythm. It was like watching 2 different languages merge into one. And your mother, Musk continued, his voice growing serious. She'll be taken care of. No more double shifts. No more choosing between violin strings and necessities. She's helped you chase your dreams. Now it's time for her to rest. Outside, the crowd had grown even larger. News vans lined the parking lot, and social media influencers were already recording their takes on the heartwarming story. But inside that quiet corner of McDonald's, a young boy's life was being transformed, one bite of breakfast sandwich at a time. As the video of the McDonald's encounter went viral, social media exploded with reaction videos, shares, and heartfelt comments. The footage showing the young violinist playing his space-inspired composition while Musk listened intently had already reached millions of views within hours. The boy's mother, who had been at her morning shift at the coffee shop, rushed to McDonald's after receiving countless messages about her son. When she arrived, still wearing her coffee shop apron, she froze at the entrance, watching through tear-filled eyes as her son enthusiastically explained his musical interpretation of orbital mechanics to one of the world's most influential people. Musk stood up when he saw her, walking over to introduce himself. The restaurant fell silent as he explained the scholarship program and how her son's unique talent had caught his attention. The mother, overwhelmed with emotion, kept shaking her head in disbelief, her hands covering her mouth. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered, watching her son demonstrate something with his violin to a SpaceX engineer who had just arrived. Musk smiled, pointing to the boy. He's the one who earned this. You both did, with years of sacrifice. Outside, the crowd had turned the McDonald's parking lot into a celebration. People were sharing their own stories of struggle and perseverance, inspired by what they'd witnessed. Local musicians had started showing up with their instruments, turning the scene into an impromptu concert. News channels were now broadcasting live from the scene, with headlines like "Street Musician's Dream Takes Flight" and "SpaceX CEO Discovers Next Generation of Innovation at McDonald's." The story was striking a chord with people worldwide, offering hope that extraordinary talents could be discovered in the most ordinary places. The boy's mother finally got to hear her son play his space composition, tears streaming down her face as she realized that his dreams, which had seemed so distant just hours ago, were suddenly within reach. The McDonald's staff, who had watched him play outside their restaurant for months, clapped the loudest. The video that would change their lives had already been shared hundreds of thousands of times. In it, you could see the exact moment when talent met opportunity. A young boy with a worn violin, playing his heart out in a McDonald's parking lot, not knowing that his audience would include someone who could launch his dreams into orbit. 3 months had passed since that fateful morning at McDonald's. The SpaceX launch facility buzzed with excitement as engineers, scientists, and journalists gathered for the upcoming rocket launch. But today, they weren't just here to witness a spacecraft reaching for the stars. They were here to watch a young violinist bring the science of spaceflight to life through music. The boy stood backstage, dressed in a new suit, his violin case beside him. It wasn't the old, worn case from the McDonald's parking lot anymore. Musk had insisted on getting him a professional-grade instrument worthy of today's performance. But the young musician had kept his old violin, now displayed proudly in his new music room at home. His mother sat in the front row, hardly recognizable from the exhausted woman who had rushed to McDonald's 3 months ago. The dark circles under her eyes were gone, replaced by a well-rested glow. She no longer worked double shifts. Instead, she'd become her son's biggest supporter, driving him to music lessons and physics tutorials. The past 3 months had been transformative. The boy had flourished under the guidance of top music instructors and SpaceX engineers. He spent his mornings studying advanced physics and mathematics, afternoons practicing with his violin teacher, and evenings composing his special piece for the launch. As he stepped onto the stage, a hush fell over the crowd. The massive rocket loomed behind him, its white surface gleaming in the morning sun. He lifted his violin, took a deep breath, and began to play. The composition started with a single low note, the rumble of engines preparing for ignition. Then, like the building thrust of rocket engines, the music began to soar. Every note had been carefully crafted to match the physics of spaceflight, from the initial thrust to the graceful dance of orbital insertion. Engineers in the audience exchanged amazed glances as they recognized the mathematical principles woven into the melody. The boy swayed with his music, his bow dancing across the strings as the piece built toward its climax. Behind him, final preparations for the launch continued, creating an extraordinary backdrop to his performance. The story of the McDonald's violinist had inspired millions, but this moment, this perfect fusion of art and science, would inspire generations. The young boy who once played for spare change was now performing at the forefront of human achievement, proving that dreams really do take flight when given wings. 1 year had passed since the viral McDonald's moment that changed everything. The boy, now a rising star in both music and science, stood in front of a packed auditorium at one of the world's most prestigious music schools. He had just completed his entrance performance, a piece that combined classical violin techniques with mathematical principles of aerospace engineering. The judges sat in stunned silence. They'd never heard anything quite like it. In the audience, his mother wiped away tears of joy, sitting next to Elon Musk, who had taken time from his busy schedule to attend this crucial moment. Around them, several SpaceX engineers who had been mentoring the young prodigy waited anxiously for the results. The past year had been extraordinary. The boy's original composition from the rocket launch had been downloaded millions of times, inspiring a whole new generation to explore the connection between music and science. Schools across the country had started programs combining arts and STEM education, sparked by his unique approach to learning. His old violin now hung in a special display at the SpaceX headquarters, right next to photos of successful launches and Mars mission plans. Below it, a small plaque told the story of a young boy who played outside McDonald's, dreaming of stars and symphonies. The judges finally spoke, announcing not only his acceptance into their prestigious program, but also the creation of a special curriculum inspired by his innovative approach to music. They wanted him to help develop a new way of teaching that combined musical theory with physics and mathematics. Back at that same McDonald's in Austin, a wall now displayed his photo and story. It had become a spot of pilgrimage for young musicians and scientists alike. The restaurant staff proudly told customers about the morning they witnessed a dream take flight in a parking lot. His mother no longer worried about paying for violin strings or choosing between music lessons and groceries. Instead, she had started a foundation helping other talented kids from struggling families pursue their passions in both arts and sciences. As the audience erupted in applause at the announcement of his acceptance, the boy hugged his mom tightly. Then he turned to Musk, who smiled knowingly. They both understood that this wasn't just a story about music or science. It was about how a chance encounter outside a fast food restaurant could spark a revolution in how we think about learning, passion, and the beautiful intersection of art and technology. The young violinist had shown the world that sometimes the most remarkable discoveries happen in the most ordinary places, and that true innovation comes from daring to see connections where others see only divisions. His journey from the McDonald's parking lot to the prestigious music school had become a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that with dedication, support, and a little bit of luck, dreams really do come true.